Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for June the 9th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry, hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week. It is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know. So if you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But for Destiny fans, I have good news, especially if you like Destiny 2. There is a lot more content coming to the game. In fact, 2 years worth of content according to the team at Bungie. On top of that, we're talking about Black Ops, which is this year's big Call of Duty game, at least according to rumors, but it looks like those are going to be even more grounded than ever before. Then we have tons of rumors ahead of the big PlayStation event being held later on this week, and some other big news worth mentioning as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top gaming news, which features Bungie outlining the next 2 years of Destiny 2, with no plans to make another sequel on the books. Game developer Bungie detailed the future roadmap of its sprawling online shooter Destiny 2 on Tuesday in a Twitch livestream packed with news about where the game is going this fall and how the studio plans to support it once Microsoft's and Sony's new consoles arrive. Perhaps the biggest news was the announcement of not just one but 3 new major expansions, keeping the game active until at least 2022. Typically, Bungie's Destiny series, which first launched back in 2014 as the first new property from the creator of Halo, has followed a somewhat consistent release cadence. It has involved smaller updates that are peppered in once every few months, all leading up to a major fall expansion. For Destiny 1, the cycle lasted 4 years. The same has stayed true for Destiny 2, which launched in 2017 and has had 2 major fall expansions since, and a seasonal update model that Bungie has been tweaking to find the right formula. That appears to be changing, at least in a big picture sense. Bungie has rarely talked about its plans beyond the immediate year ahead, but game director Luke Smith announced today that Destiny 2 will see the Beyond Light expansion this fall, releasing the 22nd of September, as well as the Witch Queen in 2021 and Lightfall in 2022. There are no new release dates for those last 2 expansions, but we can assume they'll also be in the fall, and Smith said Bungie will continue revamping how it keeps the game active and engaging in the months in between. All 3 expansion names were shown on screen as being part of Destiny 2, so while Bungie has not explicitly announced that it is not planning to release another proper sequel, which in turn forces many players to migrate to a new game and lose all of their progress on the existing one, it does seem fairly certain there is no Destiny 3 on the horizon, at least not until well after 2022. Although, in a Q&A with streamer Ben Dr. Lupo following the reveal, Smith did say, quote, "We are not planning to make one," when asked about another sequel. The big focal point of the fall expansion, Beyond Light, is players gaining control of the darkness, a kind of primordial evil that is the series' primary antagonist and the antithesis to the protagonist's source of supernatural powers called the Light. It will involve a new destination, the icy Jovian moon Europa, and a new enemy to face that is in some way intertwined with the ongoing darkness narrative. It will also bring back a popular Destiny 1 character, the Exo Stranger, and pull together a number of other story threads that Bungie has been building for some time now. Players won't have to wait too long to start getting a taste of where Bungie is taking the game this fall. The next seasonal update, called the Season of Arrivals, which we talked about yesterday, launches today for all major platforms, and it will include a dungeon going live this evening and a series of story beats and activities that presumably transition the narrative toward Beyond Light in September. In addition to all of this expansion-related news, Bungie announced it would be supporting the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X consoles for Destiny 2, including free upgrades for current owners of the game on the platform they play on, and performance guarantees of 4K 60 FPS. There was also a reveal of the Destiny Content Vault, which will let Bungie cycle out old content and bring back fan favorites from Destiny 1 into a new, separate experience that will live alongside the main game. Bungie says the goal is to help better manage updates to the game, keep file sizes down, and allow the studio to better prioritize newer content. It will still start with the revival of a series first raid, the Vault of Glass. All of these updates mark a pretty serious new direction for Destiny starting this fall, and it all mirrors Bungie's substantial changes it made to the structure and business of the game last year after it broke with publishing partner Activision and made Destiny an independent franchise. Those changes involve support for cross-save and a new free-to-play model, both of which have made the game far more accessible to new players and have made Bungie an industry leader in supporting movement between platforms. So, it's good to see that Bungie will continue doing so when new consoles arrive. Bungie has yet to announce an exact date for when Destiny 2 will be available on the Series X and PS5, and it's unclear right now how the upgrade process will work for current players who plan on playing the Beyond Light expansion on release to transition to the new consoles and carry over all their progress and purchases. But given how smoothly cross-save was implemented, it is likely Bungie will have a cohesive system in place come November when the new consoles are expected to launch, or at the very least, sometime in early 2021. So that was a lot to break down. First and foremost, Destiny 2 is going to exist for at least the next 2 years. That's a lot of time. And really, if you want to go ahead and round up, you can call it 3, because if the 2022 expansion launches in the fall of 2022, you're ultimately nearly into 2023, so you can go ahead and call it what it is. This is something that I think is a very good move, although if I was on the marketing team at Bungie, I would merge together all of these experiences, because one of the smallest little tidbits from today's giant conglomeration news is that you are going to be getting kind of a greatest hits experience of regurgitated content from Destiny 1 that is going to exist alongside the world of Destiny 2. So you scrap any kind of numerical value and you just call it Destiny. You call it what it is. It is an ever-evolving world in which you continually get a new string of content implemented every single fall, and in between you have this incredible series of events that keeps players engaged. This is by all means the closest Destiny has ever been to being a true MMO-style experience, and I think it's going to really thrive. This is very wise, because to release a brand new game sets a level of expectation that I don't think the team at Bungie is ready to see quite yet. Destiny 2 and Destiny overall is simply a good game. It's a good setup. It's got a good system. And so it's very hard to announce a sequel without some kind of definitive route to creating a better experience. And Destiny 2, I'm sure that the overall experience could be improved, but not to the degree of warranting an entirely new game. When changes can be implemented in something that players are already invested in, it's automatically going to have a bigger return on investment for the studio creating these changes if implemented appropriately. And that's the biggest factor to take into consideration there, the appropriate implementation of changes. But to continue supporting the game is something that I think is going to be a phenomenal move, and it looks like a lot of fans are enjoying the announcements as well. As we discussed on yesterday's show, Destiny 2 has been in somewhat of a bad spot lately, especially in terms of public interest and overall player engagement. It just wasn't where it needed to be to continue succeeding, and I think that this definitely won a lot of fans back, so kudos to the team at Bungie for hosting a very solid event. Now, at the risk of being taken down by Activision, Call of Duty Black Ops has seemingly leaked online with key art image. It looks like they're ditching that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War trifecta that we talked about a couple of weeks back. Things are getting leaky all of a sudden. It's almost like you hit your 70s. First, an image from EA's UFC 4 leaked online. We'll talk about that more in a moment. And now it looks as though we have our first glimpse at the next installment in the Call of Duty franchise. Rumors have been flying that the game is either a gritty reboot or a game set during the Cold War, but it seems certain that the Black Ops subtitle will make a return. If we are to believe this leaked image, the game will simply be named Call of Duty Black Ops. This falls in line with last year's Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which similarly vetoed numbers in favor of simplicity. Interestingly, Eurogamer reported the game would be named Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and it's possible the title was simplified or that rumor was false in the first place. We are still no closer to knowing whether this is a reboot or a Cold War story, but the image looks real to us. It is hardly a surprise given the aforementioned rumors. Presumably it won't be much longer before we learn more about this year's Call of Duty. The PS5 Games event is a safe bet. So again, here is the image in question, assuming that Activision has not taken it down quite yet. This looks very official. This looks like it's very, very, very official. And if you look at some of the definitive dates and locations set on the background image here, you have a giant explosion, nuclear warhead. You have confidential matters that are dated. Looks like March 15th, 1976. Very big deal there. Launch Site 1, nuclear warhead storage unit, that kind of stuff on the background. It seems like this is going to be the setting, the name, and everything that you can really expect whenever the full reveal is coming. All short of course, actual gameplay and a full confirmation. So, will we be seeing this at the PlayStation 5 event this week? Overwhelmingly, yes. I highly expect to see something Call of Duty related because of Activision's deal with Sony. For the people that might not know about the current Call of Duty and overall Activision setup, essentially Xbox 360 was the Call of Duty console for the entirety of its life. That was where you got first access to DLC. That's where you saw a lot of the marketing push from the team at Activision because they had signed a deal with Microsoft to pretty much give timed exclusivity to the Xbox side. Then, Sony started throwing around the big bucks, saying, hey, I want that Call of Duty content before the other guy gets it, and lo and behold, that's exactly what has happened. So now you see a bit of a flip, and I think that the PlayStation 5 event is probably somewhere in the intricacies of the contract between PlayStation and Activision, so you can probably expect to see some Call of Duty Black Ops news later on this week. As far as the name goes, I am a big fan of this, because Call of Duty Modern Warfare was one of the best reboots I can ever really imagine. It was everything that I wanted it to be, and I think that it definitely scratched that itch for a lot of the fan base. Now, some people didn't like it, but I know that an overwhelming majority of them actually did. And so if you look at the future, Black Ops is one of my favorite franchises, or I usually call them sub-franchises, in the Call of Duty franchise. And so I would love to see a gritty reboot featuring Mason, featuring Woods, featuring these iconic set pieces that really did win my heart over whenever the original game launched back in 2010. And of course, what about zombies? What's going on with that? So we'll see what happens. Of course, all games from here on out, at least for the foreseeable future, are going to be running on the new engine developed from the team at Infinity Ward, so they should be having a pretty similar feel as compared to the game that was released in 2019. However, we have more rumors to dive into. Persona 3 and 4 Golden are going to be coming to Steam. An announcement is coming this weekend at PC Gamer's streamed event. For the longest time, it was easy to say that there was still a valid reason to own the PlayStation Vita, that it was the only place to still play the excellent Persona 4 Golden. If the rumor is to be believed, then it appears the Vita is losing its best exclusive at last, with word floating around the Twitter sphere that Persona 3 FES and Persona 4 Golden are heading for a Steam release. How valid are these rumors? We deal with and toil around a lot of industry scuttlebutt, but this time at least, there are a few reliable sources talking up the supposed news. The rumors begin with the Twitter user @SabiWabi, an account with over 28,000 followers and a writer for Spiel Times, posting that the news comes from a source that has scraped the SteamDB listing for Persona 4 Golden. We have included a screenshot of the tweets above rather than an embed because Sabi mentions that they may delete their post in order to avoid risk. According to the SteamDB page, the listing was generated back in April. Typically, this would not be enough to offer more than a skeptical shrug at news, of course, but this gets reported every year or so like clockwork. People have wanted Persona 4 Golden on another system other than the Vita for a very long time, myself included. Nintendo Switch. The rumor gains more validity once reported by Nibelian, known rumor spreader and newsbreaker, sharing the info and supporting that the announcement will come this weekend at PC Gamer's PC Game Show livestream presentation on June the 13th. Nibble also mentions that Persona 3 FES is expected to be included in the announcement, and whether a glib remark or true fact, verified Twitter user and industry analyst Danny Lamont also chimed in, saying, announce and release same day. How valid is this rumor? Honestly, it feels more legit than some of the others we've heard in recent weeks, and I do believe this is going to be something that we see become a reality. As I coughed, I don't know why this isn't coming to the Nintendo Switch. I'm not sure why Persona 4 Golden still isn't on the PlayStation 4, but here we have both of these games supposedly coming to Steam. Will they be exclusive? I suppose time will tell, but it looks like rumors are beginning to spread and some big industry names are tuning in. But another rumor, Resogun Dev's biggest game is a PlayStation 5 launch title, according to some industry insiders. Housemarque, the Finnish studio behind Resogun, Next Machina, Alienation, and other arcade-like games, announced earlier this year that it's ramping up production on its, quote, biggest and most ambitious title yet, end quote. At the time, the developer announced that it had shelved in development battle royale shooter Stormdivers, which the studio knew had little chance of succeeding in that busy space. The new project was said to be published by a third-party partner, but Housemarque did not say who that was at that time. Now, according to GameReactor.dk, the game's publisher is none other than Sony, who plans to make the game available at the launch of the PlayStation 5. The site did not mention what kind of game it is, and Housemarque never dropped any official hints. The developer has, however, expressed a desire to create a more modern game that does not harken back to the classics. Whatever it may be, its development is an undertaking big enough to assemble the studio's biggest team ever. If the game is indeed a PlayStation 5 launch title, there is a good chance we'll hear about it this Thursday on the PlayStation 5 Games event. Given recent history, there is nothing like a Housemarque game to kick off a new generation. And that's the point that I wanted to make. Resogun was launched at the beginning of the PlayStation 4's life cycle, and for the longest time, it was all that I ever really played. Very fun arcade game, but as the article does mention, it seems that Housemarque is wanting to branch out and try something that's a bit more in-depth and something that doesn't necessarily harken back to the classics, so it could be an interesting experimental time for one of Sony's most unique little studios. Next Machina, phenomenal. Alienation didn't really get me, but Resogun, definitely a very, very good title. I believe they also developed Dead Nation, Housemarque Games. Hold on. I want to make sure that we have all of the information you need. It looks like they were going to make Stormdivers. Dead Nation, yes, that one was pretty solid. I'm a big fan of that one. Outland was a very good game as well, but I think overwhelmingly their standout success was 100% Resogun, which again launched in 2013. But we'll see. Could this one be included on this week's PlayStation 5 games lineup? It very well could. Now, mentioned earlier and detailed here, PlayStation 4 Patches, which tracks patches released for PlayStation 4 titles. Who would have thought with a name like that? Uploaded to Sony's network, has added a listing for something called Magnum, which the game icon reveals to be a community feedback environment version of the unannounced EA Sports UFC 4. Electronic Arts will likely announce EA Sports UFC 4 at EA Play Live 2020 on June the 18th at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah, this is probably coming. I have nothing else to say. But it looks like Far Cry 6 is also going to be coming according to some new insider information. Like I said, lots of rumors on today's show. It looks like it is set outside of the US and it features a return to its exotic setting. It looks like a new Far Cry will be announced in just over a month's time, where we should see Far Cry 6 revealed during Ubisoft Forward on July the 12th. The news is coming from GameReactor.dk, which says that Far Cry 6 will be officially unveiled during the event. The site said, quote, and this is translated, the last Ubisoft game scheduled to be released before April, unless Ubisoft decides it's this game that should be postponed due to COVID-19 or that there are too many AAA releases in a fairly short window, is set to be a Far Cry, end quote. It continues, I don't want to ruin Ubisoft's plans by giving you all the information, but I can say with certainty that those of you who didn't like Far Cry 5's North American setting are likely to find this game more interesting when it's officially unveiled during Ubisoft Forward on July the 12th. Far Cry 6 will be in a more exotic location and should release in 2021, ready for next-gen consoles and PC. So personally, first and foremost, I enjoyed Far Cry 5's Montana setting, but I also enjoy the exotic locales of Far Cry 4 and Far Cry 3, specifically the island of Far Cry 3. Very good stuff. Now, the big question here is, where are we going to see this game set? The potential is literally limitless. There are so many options. I just want to leave it up to the team at Ubisoft. But as far as a brand new Far Cry goes, it's about time. Far Cry 5 definitely had some legs, and of course, in between the releases of Far Cry 5 and the eventual release of Far Cry 6, you did see the release of Far Cry New Dawn, which was kind of a standalone DLC of sorts that was still very solid and featured a lot of gameplay. A lot of bang for your buck there. But Far Cry 6 looks to be coming in 2021. That does line up with the general release time frame for most Far Cry games in the recent history with that kind of spring release. I believe that New Dawn and Far Cry 5 both released between March and I want to say May, if I remember correctly. So we'll see if that trend continues, and more news should be coming in just a few weeks on July the 12th. How is it almost July? But to round out today's show, a bit of a warning for you guys. Nintendo accounts have been breached, and they've affected almost twice as many people as previously thought. So, let's go ahead and start back with the original story. Back in April, Nintendo admitted up to 160,000 user accounts had been accessed by unauthorized means, with linked payment methods used in some cases to make purchases. Today, Nintendo has said it believes an additional 140,000 people were affected for a total of 300,000, and they have sent out this statement. Quote, "We would like to provide an update on the recent incidents of unauthorized access to some Nintendo accounts. While there is no evidence that Nintendo's databases, servers, or services were breached, and while we can confirm that no credit card information was compromised, we took precautionary measures to help safeguard our customers. We discontinued the ability to use a Nintendo Network ID to sign into a Nintendo account, and we reached out to all customers whose accounts we had reason to believe were accessed without authorization to help them take additional steps to protect themselves. If someone becomes aware of unauthorized activity using a Nintendo account, we encourage them to take the steps outlined in the article about the Nintendo account recovery process, or visit this website for general support, and that is nintendo.co.uk, and you can find more information there. In addition, we strongly encourage all our customers to employ strong, unique passwords and enable two-step verification for their Nintendo account, as instructed on the official post, how to set up two-factor authentication." Why do you write this? Just give me a link. But anyways, continuing on, we apologize for any inconvenience caused and will continue working to safeguard our platforms and our customers' data. So ultimately, if you have a Nintendo account, double check to make sure things are okay. It's never a good time to see that things have been breached, but it seems the data is largely safe, except for the surface level stuff that Nintendo can't really control. So, make sure that you're all covered and well and good in the meantime. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed this one, drop me a like down below and let me know about everything you think about today's show. What do you think about Destiny 2 specifically? What do you think about it being around for another 2 years? Is that a good move, or should they have made Destiny 3? Would love to hear what you have to say about that. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.